We are here with Team Dragonshield, Tariq Patel, Matt Rogers and Nick Butcher. How are you guys?
Good. We're doing good. We're here today with you guys, with Matt, Nick, and myself, talk about Dash, the deck we took to the Pro Tour, and hopefully give you guys a little bit of insight going forward.
Yeah, that's great. So you already mentioned that you have a Dash deck profile for us, but where are we? We are here in Lille at the Pro Tour and the calling just ended. Give us an impression, like what do you think about Prism gone now?
We're happy that Prism's gone. I have never been a fan of the hero. I think she's been a little oppressive on certain decks in the format, and I'm really interested to see how she opens up the metagame.
Yeah. And what is your impression in general here in Lille, meeting all the European players?
Europe's been super friendly. Everybody's been really nice. It's just been great to meet the community abroad. So many times you only speak to people over the internet. It's great to put a name to a face.
Yeah.
Or a face to a name, I should say.
Nick, how about you? Did you enjoy the event?
Yeah, no, it was really good. My draft experience wasn't that great, but sometimes you just get unlucky. But when I was playing this Dash deck, I was having a great time. I didn't lose with it, so it's a great deck. And now that with Prism gone, Oldham's going to be on the rise, and here's a deck that might good into that deck, so you might want to pick it up and try it out.
Yeah. Matt, how about you? Tell us a little bit about your experience this weekend.
Yeah, I've had an amazing weekend. Obviously, I got to play Dash again, which I haven't been more excited to play an event or play a hero or play a deck for well over a year. Obviously, I love this hero, I love this deck, and I was just super excited the whole testing time up to this event. I couldn't wait. The chips fell how they did. I got some some not so great matchups, and I didn't end up doing that well on the Pro Tour. Day 1 went well, day 2 not so much. But then day 3 I got to be on the casting team, so I got to commentate the top 8 of the Pro Tour and some of the calling as well, which was just a lot of fun. I love being in the booth there. I love talking about Fab. It's absolutely in my element. So this whole weekend is just kind of been it.
Yeah, awesome. I see you have already taken the hero and his weapon on the table. Tell us a little bit about the weapon, Teklo Plasma Pistol.
Yeah, that's a great point. So last weekend over in Singapore, Dash actually ended up taking home the calling, and they were running Talishar, which is the sword, the generic sword action that once you got 3 coppers or counters on it, it actually destroyed itself. We decided to go with the Teklo Plasma Pistol just so we'd have a little bit more of a late game, a little bit more inevitability in case the game went longer than the first 3 weapon attacks. So that's why we kind of stuck with pistol. We never even had a Talishar in our deck.
Yeah, okay, so now that we know what weapon you played, show us a little bit more. What cards had you had in your deck?
So jumping through the armor, the first is our Visitronic, Model I, and Goliath Gauntlet. So Visitronic, mostly for the Wizard matchup, specifically Icelander and Kano, as it does have Arcane Barrier too. It really doesn't have much functionality besides that. The surprising one to most people is that Goliath Gauntlet would probably be more of a sideboard card in iDeck than a main deck. We were really just playing the Iron Rock Gauntlet over it in almost every single matchup, with the exception of almost Wizards, I would say, right? Yeah. So definitely not the card that we anticipated it to be, and everybody thought we were going to be playing Gauntlet. I got a lot of surprise looks when I flipped over Iron Rock Gauntlet this weekend. And then rounding out the armor, we got the standard equipment package that you will probably see in every Dash deck going forward. We have Teklo Foundry Heart, which is probably one of the best pieces of equipment in the game. It blocks 2 as Battle Worn, meaning that you can still use the effect after its full block value is gone. Crown of Providence, just a staple in the format now. And then Achilles Accelerator, Dash's very own Snapdragon Scalers, if you will. So that rounds out the armor. Matt, why don't you talk a little bit about the items and what we got here?
Yeah, so I think kind of what you started on about Talishar. Like, this is not a Talishar deck, so I don't think we were ever at a point where we were considering playing Talishar. Right, this Dash deck is very different to the one that won. We're way more about our items, right? So we start the game with a induction chamber in just about every single matchup. I think there was some fine matchups where if we were on the draw, we'd play a Teklo Pounder, just because we really needed that extra burst damage at the start. But generally, we are grinding them out. We're a grind deck. We're not a full-on aggro deck. We do have the one Teklo Pounder in our deck just as a nice kind of blue second item to search. So in the matchups that we're not playing these and we opt to go more aggressive, it's nice to have a 2-drop weapon to search with Spark on turn 1, and it can otherwise just be a blue or something to just play out on turn 1. So then you've got the 2 weapons, you've got this charged up with the pistol, and you've kind of got a whole lot of points on the board already. So yeah, this deck is much more about keeping pressure on them and utilizing value from the counters, and ideally in a lot of matchups you're kind of looking to set this up, which is just 8 damage. 8 damage for 5 resources, so off 2 blues you're attacking them for 8, ending the turn with an extra charge on one of your things to keep rinse and repeating it. So this sort of combo is hard for any deck in the format to keep up with if you're able to just keep blocking them and attacking them. And then against the aggro decks, where you don't have the time to kind of set up these items, you just start with Induction Chamber and you make all of your blues better than their blues, because your blues still go charge the gun and the Induction Chamber, shoot for 2, charge the gun, shoot for another 2, right? So your blues are still 4 damage, they're like Scar for a Scars or whatever, and their blues are much worse. So you try to kind of outvalue them that way. And then it's only for the sort of Guardian and Oldham matchup, Oldham and Bravo, where you play a few more items, mainly Oldham really, and a little bit of Prism as well. Anything that can kind of go a bit long against you, you can bring in a few more items, and then basically set up some game state where you can just come in for 15 damage a turn against Oldham, and eventually fatigue them out.
Alright, what have we got next?
Alright, up next we got Nick with the power cards. These are the bread and butter of our deck. It's something I think that we think is a little bit spicy that other teams that played Dash didn't necessarily have this weekend, and kind of gave us a little bit of an edge.
Yep. So obviously you want to start with your velocities. I think a lot of people are playing this right now. And then the Combustible Couriers. I know every other build I've seen plays 3 and 3, but the reason we play 2 and 2 is because you actually don't want to draw multiples of these in the same turn, and when you're playing aggressively on your opponent, that matters. Like, the resources matter. You don't want to be blocking. You don't want to draw 2 velocities in a hand. You don't want to draw 2 combustibles in a hand. You just want to draw 1. And even though playing 3 means you draw the 1 more often, you don't want to draw the second one with it. So 2 is perfectly fine, especially in Combustible Courier, because once you Goliath Gauntlet, the second one's actually very expensive for what it costs, and it just gets beaten by any kind of battle worn equips. All the Rune Blades can block this very easily. So after Goliath's gone, you don't want to play a second one. That's why you just play 2. So you want to draw it, but you don't want to draw multiples. And then the same logic with Tome of Fyrandul. This is the most powerful card in this deck. You gain action points off cards like High Octane, so you end up gaining 4 or 5 life off High Octane. And at worst, Achilles Accelerator is basically a free Mage Master boot. So you can just pop the Achilles Accelerator, cast this from Arsenal, gain 4 or 5 life, and in an aggro mirror match, that is huge. You don't want to play multiples of this either. More than 2, because obviously it's a generic, so it'll whiff on occasion, but the upside is way too important than a downside to not play it at all. So we play a couple of those, and that's why we only play 2 of each of these cards.
Yep. And now to get into the core of the deck, I have Teklo Core.
I see what you did.
So, like I said, this is kind of what makes the deck hum. When you get one of these out early, it's basically a free 2 resources every turn. It's like starting the game with a Crack Bauble in your hand, and we all know how good Crack Bauble is. So just being able to start and get a Teklo Core out early means we have access to a lot more cards than we normally do in our hand. It makes maximum velocities much easier to cast, because it doesn't inhibit you to only having 2 drops or less in your hand. And it just kind of smooths the deck together. And of course we got the Spark of Genius, best way to find the Teklo Core, or if we're siding board in those extra items Matt was talking about, we can go get them in our longer matchups. And then, like Nick talked about, the other card that kind of ties everything together is our High Octane. High Octane leads to some of the best turns in the game. Combined with Teklo Core, you cast it for free, can then cast the Tome of Fyrandul, and you haven't even played a card in your hand yet. So quite an amazing set of options that Dash has access to. This is really the core that kind of keeps the Dash deck together.
Spark of Genius is just insanely busted. Like, when you boost, you draw a card to replace itself, and then Teklo Core gives you 2 resources. The next turn, Teklo Foundry will add a 3rd one. So Spark of Genius is basically 3 of a kind, but it costs nothing, and it has no downside.
Yeah, yep, literally, yep.
It's just so good.
Well, one of the best cards in the game, I think.
Yep, that's absolutely right. And going into this is the kind of the meat and potatoes of our deck going forward. So we're starting with our resource curve going 0 and up. So we got 0 to 60. We got playing all 9 copies, rainbow colors. Just simply the best card in terms of rate in the deck. Basically 0 for 4 with go again almost all of the time. Behind that we got T-Bone, kind of 0 to 60's little brother. A little bit weaker, but it does sometimes get relevant equipment, especially versus Runeblade. There's been a number of times you get a Spellbound Creepers when they have not blocked efficiently, and when it gets an equipment that they didn't mean to block with, it's just out of this world. But the main reason you play this card is to facilitate maximum velocity. You want it to be as resource efficient as possible, so you can spend your last 2 mana to cast the maximum velocity. Zipper hit, excuse me. Now we're in the 1-drops. Just more of the same, just kind of a 1 mana 0 to 60. This is your best 1-drop for attack value that you got in the deck. But other than that, it's kind of a generic card, so not much to say there. It blocks 3, very solid. High speed impact. Now we're kind of rounding out the fillers of the deck. You know, we just want to play blues that cost 1 in case we need them later. Most of the time you're using this for the pitch value, not really, or the block value, and not really playing the blue version of this card. The red one's still good because you want still good turns with your maximum velocity turn, but not too much strategy in terms of the who's and whys there.
You slide that one out a bit.
Yeah, it does come out a fair bit amount. Throttle is kind of your chunkiness to the deck, I like to say. It provides a good kick for 2 mana, 6 damage. So when you have to block and you only have 1 or 2 cards left in hand, this is the perfect card to kind of come back with. Shoot with pistol twice for 4 damage, follow it up with a red throttle. You got a 10 damage turn off of basically 2 cards. So quite good value there. Up next, we got Pedal to the Metal. This was one of the more later inclusions in our deck. You know, some people play Overloop, some people play Pedal to the Metal. We actually decided to go with Pedal to the Metal just because it does not have the normal dash clause that when it hits, the next card that gains dominant doesn't actually need to boost. So if you attack with it, it's your last card before you play a maximum velocity. The maximum velocity will actually get dominated itself. Not that people usually aren't blocking before that, but it has come up in certain situations, so it's very cool. It can also give Plasma Pistol, the Teklo Pistol dominate. So little niche interactions like that, just trying to find every edge where they're available. And then
more importantly, it's a blue. It's a mechanologist blue, right? Yeah, and it says boost on it, right? You want your blues saying boost. That's really important, so that you can, in the late game, do the kind of end play, or be able to play something off a high octane to get the extra action point.
That's exactly right. And then again, like Matt said, something with boost. It's a blue and it blocks 3. So these cards not casted very often.
Except for against Dromai. Kill a dragon, it pumps your next thing, and then whack him.
But speaking of dragons, I heard a lot that Dash has a problem when fights against the dragons, because Tomatai can crush the heart, the Teklo heart.
Yeah.
What do you think about in the future now? Prism is gone, and Dash was winning the last big tournament, the Calling. Before we went here to Lille, the future of Dash, what do you guys think will look like?
Yeah, well, the Dromai kind of taking the gatekeeper position from Prism as the illusionist hero isn't fantastic for Dash. I lost to a Dromai at the Pro Tour. I do think it is one of the harder matchups. I do think they can do some very annoying things and be kind of above rate with all of their dragons and kind of get out of control a little bit. But it's not a completely bad matchup, right? So I think if that deck becomes played more, I think we'll be able to find a strategy to beat it, which is probably just playing more 6 powers. When you pop their dragons, they lose so much tempo from that. It's huge, so that they have to take a lot of risks. If you expect a few more Dromais in your local meta game, just pop an extra couple 6 powers in there, and I think you'd do quite well.
Nick, do you have any thoughts on the future for Dash?
Its future's bright. It's really bright. I think its worst matchups are like a bit better now because it doesn't have to, because aggro decks have got a bit worse because of how good Oldhim and Bravo have gotten now that Prism's gone.
Yeah.
So you're able to like change up your board, maybe play a control style of deck. But yeah, I'm excited for Dash really in the future. I don't think it's gotten better.
Yeah. Do you have some last words? Do you want to shout out anyone?
I just want to say thank you to everybody that kind of supported us, Team Dragonshield themselves. I do have a couple more cards to say before we get going.
Oh yeah, there's a few more.
Hey, what's up, Saint?
Hey guys, hope you guys had a good event.
Hey.
This guy Alex, we'll talk later.
Yes, for sure.
But Pro House next time, right?
Yeah,
Pro
man.
House next time. Hope I can get the invite.
Absolutely.
And you
Always
guys will
welcome.
do better in the world, right?
All right.
Keep it up.
Sorry,
God
that
love
was-
Saint, right?
Yeah, lovely guy.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with what they're saying. So we kind of went with the D-Reacts this event because there were definitely more Guardians than there were Dromais, but with Prism being out of the metagame, like Matt said, with Dromai coming in, we're probably going to have to play more Poppers. So that probably means more payloads going forward, maybe play the third maximum velocity. But going forward, the metagame is definitely going to shift. So keep in mind, our sideboard probably will change over time.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for the Dromai thing, you may need about 7 or 8. We were playing 6 poppers. So we were playing the 3 red throttle, 2 maximum velocities, and a payload for Prism and Dromai. But I think for Dromai, we may need a couple more. So it might be around about 8 is what you want to stick to if you're finding that there's a bit of Dromai in your local meta.
Yeah. So for the shoutouts, do you have anyone else that you want to include?
No, shout out Dragonshield, I think, the most important one.
Yeah, just the brand that's behind everything we do, right?
Yeah.
Like they give us a massive amount of support, and they're an amazing company to be aligned with. So yeah, just thank you, Dragonshield, absolutely.
There's a new line coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. They'll announcement soon.
You also had here at Lille your Team Dragonshield sleeves, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
they've
they're
been beautiful.
cool. They are so beautiful.
So I've been enjoying playing with them all weekend. They were for sale at the vending booth on site. I don't think you have access to it online just yet, but hopefully one day. I picked up a couple packs for myself and I will be using and abusing them for months to come. So definitely my favorite thing about this trip so far is picking up a pack of these.
Guys, thank you so much for the conversation and showing us the deck, and we see each other next time.
All right, thanks
you.
for having us.
Thanks.